Wow. Okay, so there was some sort of issue with our browser not playing the intro video clip. Sorry, guys and gals. We were here. We're waiting. It's the Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Yeah, that was really interesting. So I'm hitting some buttons and, intro video is supposed to play. Give us a little Seinfeld-esque sounder as we work our way in here, and not so much. We're here, and boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of fun stuff to cover today here on the Sports Carnival. Again, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Ron, this little bitch goes on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and I'm telling you what, man, I do not find myself to be a fan of Aaron Rodgers more and more by the day. I was talking to Jeff Schneider Tax and Accounting yesterday when I went over to sign some paperwork, and Matt, I told him, listen, Aaron's a great player. We all know that. But this thing's getting a little bit old. This thing's getting a little bit long. And the way in which Aaron was talking to Pat McAfee, I just took some great exception to. So I hope you guys and gals aren't too sensitive to a couple of choice words, some four-letter expletives when I describe Aaron Rodgers and what exactly it is that I feel about Aaron Rodgers. We're going to get Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold Insider, here early, 8:15 this morning. Get him to break down what may be coming up in the next couple of days, weeks, or months, because, Matt, I've got a poll question for you, and I've got one for our audience members on our Facebook group page and our Twitter feed as well, at the Sports Carney. Now that Aaron has made his feelings public to at least Pat McAfee, we have no idea if this is exactly what he's told the Packers, but now that he's made his feelings public, intends to play for the Jets, what should the Packers do next? And the way that you can answer this question, because, of course, the Packers could do a lot of things, but the way that you can answer this question is as follows. Slow play this for the best picks or compensation. Slow play it for the best picks. Accommodate Rodgers right away because he says it's time for the Packers to, quote, do the right thing. Or don't trade this motherfucker just to spite him. Which way do you think the Packers should go? I'll tell you what, we're getting some interesting interaction on our Facebook group page here. I'll check over to Twitter, getting some nice votes. What are your thoughts, Matt? I'll start with you before we take a look at anything here we have online.
Well, I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to use one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite 5-letter words that all Packer fans should do right now, and that's relax. RELAX. Says they should just sit back, wait, see what happens, and hold out for whatever they can to get the best compensation possible.
So our Twitter feed right now, at the Sports Carney, has 58.3% of respondents agreeing with you. Slow play for the best picks. 41.7% say accommodate him right away, which I'm a little surprised to see. Not a single vote yet on our.
Jeff Schneider voted for make him comfortable. It seems like Jeff Schneider's a big Aaron Rodgers fan, I guess.
Well, we'll say that's our Twitter feed. Jeff doesn't normally go on Twitter, but we don't have a single vote on the Twitter feed, at least yet, at the Sports Carney for don't trade him just to spite him. Now we've got more votes in. Slow play for best pick, 61.5%. Checking in on our Facebook group page, 76% say slow play this thing for the best picks or compensation, and 23% say don't trade him just to spite him. Listen, I think the Packers eventually trade him, and we're going to talk to Joe Daguanno, as mentioned, at 8:15, get his thoughts, perhaps some insight on the ways in which the Packers will go about addressing this. But Aaron Rodgers, and you and I had a brief conversation about it this morning before we started. Aaron Rodgers has just become the worst goddamn poker player in the entire world. If he thinks he's helping the Jets at all by doing what he did yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, or as we call him, Sleeveless Joe and Silent J, then you've done the worst job that you could have ever done at positioning the Jets to be able to get out of this thing for less compensation than more. The Green Bay Packers, to me, should wait on this thing until like the very last minute. And I could even see this going as far as near the season's beginning. Let the Jets make their draft. Let them do all their free agency stuff. Let them sit and wait on Aaron Rodgers. The Packers are in the driver's seat here, and I don't think they should do anything, not one fucking thing, to accommodate Aaron Rodgers. They gave this guy the bag. I mean, they gave this guy the bag, $100 million plus guaranteed dollars, and now he needs them to do the right thing. This is atrocious. It really is. I'm very upset with how Rodgers played this thing yesterday.
Well, I know you're excited that he did say something because now we have something to keep talking about, because you and I could ride this motherfucker forever. My point with this is he wants to take none of the blame. He wants all the success, whether it's with the Packers or the Vikings. Or Jets, I'm sorry. He's maybe he might play maybe. It's, but everything that comes out of his mouth, every word that spews out of his mouth seems to show that he is going to be the resurrected, the best for both these franchises, this, that. But if those teams fail, then he wants none of the blame. He just wants to be known as the best that played, and he's this MVP. He got it twice after Jordan Love got drafted, blah, 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 blah. But no matter what happens, he just wants to have all the success. But if there's no success and the blame is going to come around, he's just going to pass the buck to whoever it is he plays for.
All right, so we've got somebody checking in here, Jim Tim, and I want to say, is this Jim Haggerty? Say, don't forget, it's Austin 316 day, regardless of the A-Rod news, and we do have March Madness. All right, listen, I'm excited. I'm really excited. It's not just about March Madness, which I'm stoked about. By the way, half of my bracket is filled out. I've got one half of the bracket filled out. I've still got some work to do. I've been waiting for all the recent and most recent information that I could cobble together on this thing. The brackets have to be in technically by 11 o'clock this morning if you're making them online. We're going to give you until about 11:30, 11:15, 11:30 at the recovery room. Matt is even offered possibly be hanging out a little bit, a few minutes before we actually open the doors, and I'll be down there too at 11 o'clock if you can sneak in to get your brackets. Jason Breacher, P1 Breach, he reached out to me this morning and said, look, he's going to come. He's going to get some lunch. He's going to go back to work afterwards, but fill out his bracket. We saw Mike Byers over there last night filling out his bracket. A couple nights before, we had Batty Ice. So many people getting in on this. So if you want in on this too, we'll give you till about 11:15. We can't do much longer than that, 11:30 at the latest, because then, you're watching half a game go by, and then it makes it seem a bit unfair. But needless to say, we'll give you about the first half of the first half to get yourself down to the recub. And again, fill out this bracket. We had a lot of people get into it, so I'm really excited to see how big this pot gets, because this is going back to the players.
I am too, and throw out a shout out to Katie Hiley. I know your husband's probably listening. She wants to come back and get her title because she won it last year, guys. So I think she just went by colors, to be honest, everybody. So you never know what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament.
I used to work with the gal in Vegas. She was the morning show host or the co-host on the classic rock station. And she made all of her bets. She was a Raider fan, so she generally had no dog in the fight, right, when it came to anything of substance. So she would make her NFL bets based upon helmets and how much she liked the mascots. Or not the mascots necessarily, the logos.
The logos, yeah. I got you. That makes a lot. I think a lot of people do. You might as well flip a coin. It's the same thing for some of these games.
Yeah, it really is. You flip a coin for a lot of these things. Like I say, I'm looking at some of these teams. I have no idea who are on these teams, who's coaching these teams.
Did you pick Duke or Oral Roberts yet?
I haven't got to that side of the bracket yet.
All right,
but I've been told by numerous people to take Oral Roberts.
Well, we hope we're right on that one.
Numerous people. And since yesterday I knew so many people getting like oral surgery.
Oh, there
I
you go.
think that maybe I could just go with Oral Roberts. I said that I knew a guy that used to work in Gunderson, Dan Ellens, and about 5 people nearly fainted. Like he was the best thing that probably ever happened to floor 5.
He was up Gunderson there for a while. Yeah, my dad spent a lot of time up there. I just hope everybody that I didn't know how personally you want to get, but I hope everything was taken care of and everything went well.
She's great. My mom looks fantastic. She looks fantastic. All right, Marengo Mike, I'm going to let you be the final salvo before we take a quick break, and hope everything's working with my back end here, which is inside baseball. You don't need to know that, but I'm just hoping that it does. Marengo Mike says, morning, guys. Seems I recall Joe D saying a week ago that Rodgers would be gone in 2 to 3 days. Yes, he did. Joe said that last week on Thursday, Rodgers would be gone by Friday. He says the saga is going to drag on, and I know that's what you meant. Marengo Mike, I think that the saga should drag on at this point because Aaron Rodgers has painted the Jets into a really, really tough corner, and the Green Bay Packers are sitting back and saying to themselves, or at least I would imagine if I'm inside 1265, that I'm saying to myself, if I'm a Packer front office member, this motherfucker, who does he think he is? He comes out, first of all, and stomps his feet like a little bitch and tells us about all the players that need to play with him, like Clay Matthews, out of the league. Jordy Nelson, retired playing, I don't know, farm somewhere.
Right.
And talking about all these dudes who need to come back so he could win. Sweet. What'd you get us? Nothing. A big fat nothing. You won yourself 2 MVPs. Congratulations, bro. But this is about Title Town. And as a Packer fan, as a Packer guy, this resonates to me, with me, 0%. Fuck this dude. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Hello, I am Don Francisco, and I roast and blend coffees for your pleasure and mine. My newest blend is vanilla nuts. The coffee so rich and so sweet, it tastes like the French Alps has dangled its in your cup of java. If you love coffee like I do, then you'll love Don Francisco's with a 135-year tradition. Because at Don Francisco's, if you're up all night, so are we.
Hello, Wisconsin. Hello, wherever you are and however it is that you may be participating today or just, I don't know, stumbling across the Sports Carnival. We're on Facebook, 2 different places on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and of course, every single place that you get your podcast. I love listening to myself and to you on Pandora. That's one of my favorite ways to get us. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all the places that you get your podcast. You get yourself a little Sports Carnival. Again, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Our Green and Gold Insider, Matty, Joe Daguanno, will be jumping aboard at about 8:15 this morning, so we'll be hanging tight here for Joe. If you're just joining the program right here, right now, we're going heavy on Rodgers, or at least I'm going heavy on Rodgers. I don't like the way that this guy has been basically representing the Green Bay Packers for the last number of years, and I've made my feelings quite known. I don't think anybody's been wondering where I stand with Rodgers. He's a great football player. The guy can really sling it. If you're interested in beating the Bears in the regular season, the Lions and the Vikings, this guy is your dude. And if you're looking for those career highlights, go check who they're against. They're against the Lions. They're against the Bears. That's his career highlights. Swell. He had a Super Bowl in 2010 as a pup. I mean, honestly, if you're a Packer fan, you have to love that with this guy. You have to love that with this guy. But he's turned full heel. And the thing that happened yesterday, and we went back and forth here just over the commercial break, brief as it was. The thing that happened yesterday was this. He shows himself to not only be way less intelligent than he thinks he is by the language that he uses. And what I mean by that is the very narcissistic, shallow, hollow language that focuses on himself. The focus of Aaron Rodgers is so fully on himself. That doesn't, to me, show a great intelligence. That shows a wonderful introspection, which means you're a fucking narcissist in many ways. The other thing that really rankles me is that he shows himself to just be a terrible goddamn poker player next to somebody who's wearing a 10-gallon hat. And that just is also bothersome. Rodgers wants the Packers to do the right thing and says that when he emerged from darkness, he had really thought about retiring. Get the fuck out of here. No, you didn't. And then you came to the conclusion after opening up your phone and, seeing the minimal bars in your text messages from friends and emails, the Packers wanted to move on. Now, you didn't talk to the Packers, but this is the extrapolation that you had. And then you tell the Jets, basically, on Pat McAfee's show, you're fucked because now I'm saying I want to play for you. You're the only team I want to play for. The deal's not getting done. I'm not holding it up. It's compensation that the Packers want. And if you're the Green Bay Packers, you're like, thank you for putting us on blast, you little bitch, because now we're going to sit back, sit in our hands, and wait until the very last minute. As a matter of fact, and I said this to you a few minutes ago, I don't even know that I would trade him now. Fuck this guy. Let him just sit there, and who cares if Aaron Rodgers is playing for the Jets or not? If you're going to get a shitty draft pick for it, don't do it at all. Just don't do it at all because you don't have to. He signed a contract with you, and Aaron says, do right by me. What more could the Green Bay Packers have done over the last couple of years to do right by this man? What more could they have done? They brought in aging and decrepit and never full season Randall Cobb, who is a nice guy, great looking dude, beautiful eyes. I can tell why you dudes swoon over this cat. Okay, but he's not a real player. This is not somebody who was ever going to help the Packers get over any hump. This is a bunch of bullshit. And at this point, Rodgers has shown himself to, again, be way less intelligent than he would like to believe that he is, and also a really bad poker player, which actually angers me as a kid from Vegas. I was like, this dude sucks.
Well, where I'm at, this is either needs to take the thumb or the nookie out of his mouth because he's just acting like a straight up baby all the way around. Maybe sleeveless Pat and he will be the next WWF tag team wrestling shit after he retires because they seem to be two peas in a pod. But everything that came out of his mouth when he kind of went at Mark Murphy saying what he did, that supposedly they were talking more about what he was saying coming out of his darkness. It's just him making excuses.
Well, he just, to me, he sounds like a little bitch. And I'm sorry to say, I had Joe here and then he kind of, okay, there we go. I'm sorry to say that this is a harsh take for Rodgers and Joe. I mean, normally I would love to be a lot more I would like to be a lot more introspective myself and give this a sort of nuanced approach, but this is something that we have been collectively dealing with for years now, years. And the petulance, it's wearing on me, and trying to speak out of both sides of your mouth. And this isn't the first subject that we've taken issue with on Rodgers, but as a Packer fan, in the way that I see this playing out for the Packers, I'm of the opinion now, Joe, that I wait as long as I humanly can as a GM and long as I organizationally can as the Packers themselves to get the most compensation possible. Because if this guy thinks he's still this good, well, then we better get all we can for him, because if he's so good and going to play for the next 12 years, great. Give me now.
Hey, DC, take a breath, brother. Take a breath.
Relax.
Take a breath. Yeah, relax. Let's use a little Aaron Rodgers now.
All right.
Relax.
All right.
Hey,
You're here, Joe, and I appreciate you. You're going to talk me down. I thank you.
Well, here's, look, and everything you said, I get it. I 100% get it. And the thing about it is, and you know this, a guy who I follow and really respect in the world of sports media and sports is Andrew Brandt. And he just is shaking his head at how eerily similar this whole thing is playing out as it did in 2008 with Brett Favre, and even to the team. And it's interesting because Brandt talked about, for several years, the Packer organization flew out to Kiel, Mississippi, and begged Favre to continue to play. And meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers was in the background. And then, finally the Packer organization decided to say, you know what? If you come back, great. If you don't want to come back, great. And that was the signal. And that's exactly what the Packers did this year as well. And so, it's just eerily similar. And look, Green Bay is in the driver's seat here. All right. The Jets have put all their fucking eggs in one basket. Green Bay is in the driver's seat. They're going to get a number one pick. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. Now, multiple number ones, no. This isn't going to be, the Herschel Walker trade or even the Matthew Stafford trade. I see, a number one pick and probably another conditional pick, depending on what Rodgers does after this season. And his semantics are that's what drives, I think, everyone crazy. It's like, are you immunized or vaccinated? I mean, that's what we go back to, because did I put together a demand list of players or a wish list? And I saw Diana Rossini last night, and she said, look, no one said it was a demand list. It said, Rodgers said it was a wish list. And do you for a moment think that Alan Lazard signing a 4-year, $44 million contract is a coincidence? Absolutely fucking not. And so, it's just, time will heal. It did with Favre, the Packer. And I think the Packer faithful, it's interesting, DC, because I'm really comparing the two situations. And I think there was a lot more love for Favre when he left than there is for Aaron Rodgers right now. And so I think that's a shift. But I will tell you, when Favre decided then to come back and go to the Vikings, see, I don't see that with Rodgers. I don't see that with Rodgers. I don't see him saying, you know what, I'm going to go to the Vikings now. I just don't see that. So that's when everyone lost Favre, is when he went to the Vikings. Now, I will give Aaron credit for one thing and one thing only. All right. I'll also give him credit for, 15 years of good football. Sure. But one thing I will say, when you look at the two situations, Favre was an absolute dick to Aaron Rodgers. All right. He was an absolute douchebag. Rodgers has been nothing but gracious with love. And so I will give him that salvos, if you will, to say, all right, 12, you're good to go. But yesterday was so fucking dumb. I mean, it was an hour, a masturbatory hour, basically, of jizzing nothing. And so it was just, it was, all right, let me walk you back through the history of the Green Bay Packers. And Ted Thompson, and no one's there. Well, fucking Brian Gutekunst was a scout at that time. All right. So Goody was there during that time. So, it is what it is. He's going to be a Jet. I don't think this thing, the sides got closer together last night. I've heard with the Packers and the Jets, and I'm hearing some New York Jet media people saying, the Packers are reneging on a potential deal they had. Fuck this. I mean, I go back to the movie Draft Day. When Kevin Costner leaned in, and after Rodgers said that, I lean in and I say, listen, you pancake-eating motherfucker, the world is different 30 seconds now than it was 30 seconds ago. I want my fucking picks. That's what I think the Packers are going to get.
So, Joe, that's the poll question we've got this morning, in essence, is that the Packers now have, to me, the leverage. Aaron became the world's worst poker player and showed a hand to me that if you're trying to do the Jets a solid, you didn't. If you're trying to do the Packers a solid, maybe you did in a roundabout way. But I'm asking this question. The Packers should do what now? Should they slow play this thing for the best picks? We kind of talked about them. Accommodate him right away, which is trending a bit more than I actually thought it would on our Twitter feed, or don't trade him just to spite him, which is kind of a tongue-in-cheek response, but I think it's a legitimate possibility if this thing gets really bad, because I'm on the side of the Packers. I'm not on the side of Aaron Rodgers. The Packers don't owe Aaron Rodgers anything. They've given him a platform, money, all of this. So where are you with that, though? Slow play him, accommodate him, or don't trade him just to spite him. So the Packers
I don't want to say slow play it. I play it to the best of whatever you can do to make the situation the best for the Green Bay Packers. All right. I think you want to get picks in this year's draft, right? So obviously we've got about 5 weeks, I would say, before this year's draft. And I think, and I don't think it helps the Packers or the Jets or Aaron Rodgers or the fans or anybody to have this thing drag out. All right. I just don't think it helps anyone because if Green Bay knows that they got pick 13, they can start doing their scouting now, and they can start talking. Because if you got 13 and 15 and you want to go up and get someone, now you start having those conversations. So it doesn't help anyone to drag this thing out. But I don't see Green Bay caving. I don't. And I think, and I will say this, they're going to get a number one draft choice out of this. I don't know what else. I don't know what year. It could be next year's number one. But I will say this. Green Bay gets a number one, and I just don't think there's any question about that. And so is this going to be, are Packer fans going to be disappointed if it's a number one and a conditional pick, or a number one, a player and a conditional pick? Probably, but I think that's about the going rate. I think if you can get a number one, a conditional pick, depending on what the fuck he does moving forward, and maybe a player on the rookie contract. Because here's the thing, boys. The one thing, the everyone's talking about this option that Rodgers has. All right. Rodgers has a $58 million option the clock starts ticking tomorrow on this. The Packers right now, because they're contractually held to Rodgers, have until the first game of the season to pay that. Now, any team that gets him has to pay that option. All right. So Green Bay has technically until game one of the season. All right. But the minute you trade him, all the dead cap and everything else accelerates, and now his cap number this year is $30 million. You trade, and the Packers are about $20 million under the cap right now. They restructured Devondre Campbell for another $2 million. I mean, they're literally going under the couch cushions right now trying to find something. The minute they trade him, his cap number goes to 40.
Unless they do it after June 1st. Unless they do it after June 1st.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that. Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Okay, but I'm saying technically, if they do it after June 1st, it goes from 40 to 15. So they get $25 million of cap space relief this year, if in fact they do that, which again, I don't anticipate that, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, I see this deal getting done before the draft for sure, because I think Green Bay wants to get that draft capital. Because going back to it, okay, let's say Green Bay does make the trade. They're $10 million now under the cap. That doesn't include draft choices. That doesn't include your practice squad. That doesn't include all of that. So right now, with Rodgers taken off the books, right now Green Bay has about a net zero cap. When you look at everything else that has to be added in. And so I think that draft capital is critical. And so, that yesterday was again, love for the organization, love for this. And look, yeah, I had some good memories as a Packer fan. A lot of drunk Sundays up in Lambeau Field feeling pretty good because 12 did something good that day. But, the Packers owe him nothing, all right? And he's going to be on the Ring of Honor. He's going to have the number retired. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. All of these are going to be true. And look, I will, and I told you this, I will come up to the recovery room every fucking Sunday when Jordan Love balls out to buy drinks for everyone, because I've been the biggest hater since day one of Jordan Love. And so, but it's time. It's time for the organization. It's time for 12. It's time for the fans. It's time for everybody to just move the fuck on.
Well, what I was going to go with, Joe, is I know you're trying to get Dave off of a ledge. I might jump off of a ledge if they get a first-round pick for this fucking asshole, because I don't think that's going to happen. We're talking about on the back end of his career. He's a 39-year-old quarterback. You honestly still think they can get a first-round pick for a guy at 39 years old? How many years do you see him still playing?
That's what I mean. The other pick's going to be conditional. All right. So you're going to get a first-round pick one way or another this year or next year. And you're probably going to get another conditional pick, depending on how much longer he wants to play.
Well, I was just going to say, so would you take, let's say that there could be a package like this, because when Brett Favre got traded, it was a conditional 4th-round draft pick. Well, it was a conditional 4th-round pick that turned into a 3rd, but there were escalators in that. And I heard Mike Tannenbaum, who was the general manager at the time, speaking about this. If the Jets would have, in fact, made the Super Bowl, that pick would have escalated to a 1st-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that teams can do structurally within these trade packages and within these draft picks to put some heavy conditions on it based upon performance. I was curious to ask you if you think the conditional pick would be based upon if Aaron plays next year, because like Maddie mentioned here, at 39, and essentially the way that this has been going, this has been a year-by-year proposition. Aaron mentioned, and I'm just ruffled by the way that he sounds. When I emerged from the darkness, I was 90% sure that I was going to retire and 10% sure I was going to be Keanu Reeves in the next life. But it turns out I still want to play football.
By the way, hang on. All right, I'm going to come out of the darkness. There we go. I came out of the darkness. And you went with Keanu Reeves. I thought you were going to do Nick Cage.
Maybe
I came out of the darkness.
I don't know. I don't have a right voice for this. It sounded really douchey. And when I think about that particular thing for the Jets, I don't care if I'm Woody Johnson, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, or Nathaniel Hackett much past the next couple of seasons, because that's the way that you've got to look at it. But I do want to know if he's coming back next season. So that was, I guess, my follow-up to Maddie's question about the draft pick. Do you think the compensation or the contingency on that pick will be if he plays, as opposed to a lot of guys, which is how well the team does or how many games they start in a season?
Yeah, I totally think it's if he plays. I 100% think it's tied to not necessarily performance. It's just, does he show up on the field? And I think that's the biggest thing. And look, I was listening to Pat Kerwin yesterday, longtime scout, one of the scouts of the Jets, and just enjoy the hell out of him. And this is the thing, guys, is there's a lot of other smart people, smarter than me, that know a lot more about this. And Kerwin said, look, the Jets have put themselves in a situation. And if Green Bay wants a number one, okay, you look at trade value charts now. And you say, all right, we'll give you a number one, give us a number 5 back. All right. Or instead of a number one, how about a 2 and a 3? Which trade value, you look at the numbers. There's ways to make this work. And like I said, last night it's already been reported that, what might have been here is now here as far as the negotiation. So, and I think Green Bay is going to get the number one. And look, I'm just glad this fucking thing is over. I mean, this is Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And I go back to it. I had a couple of Viking buddies send me Jets banners and that type of thing. I'm like, look, I already played this game back in 2008, man. I've seen it happen. I've seen what happened. I think Rodgers, okay, he's got the chip on his shoulder. I saw Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk yesterday talk about the chips being on the shoulder. And I get a little tired of that. It's like, look, do you actually need that? Robert Conrad knocked the shit off my shoulder to actually go ball out. Do you need that? Are you that insecure that you need that? And why couldn't you have done that in Green Bay then? If you got another level, why didn't you go there in Green Bay? And so I think, again, and I found a really, really interesting chart yesterday. It gave me the 8 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And I'll throw Rodgers in there, all right? 7 of them are in the AFC.
Yeah.
And I'll throw Jalen Hurts as your 8th. And so good luck, bud. Good luck. Somebody played Madden last night. I saw this on social media. and he put Rodgers on the Jets from last year, and he had the Jets going 10-7 with Rodgers.
That sounds about right.
It's not, and being the 6th seed in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. Now then it got
so great. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I thought.
Let's sell the farm.
It went to a ridiculous level because then he said the playoffs played out, and the Jets played the Packers in the Super Bowl, so it went kind of to the ridiculous level. But is
awesome.
Aaron Rodgers worth
you were basically at the Recov every day.
So Aaron, that's with Jordan Love at the quarterback. I'm like, guys, come on. I mean, Jordan Love is not going to lead the Green Bay Packers to the Super Bowl this year.
Wow.
So here's the thing. Let's say Rodgers is worth 2 or 3 more wins. That's great. And you know what? The Jets do have a great nucleus. And right now, I will tell you, I like Robert Saleh. I think if I were to have a coach, Saleh or LaFleur, I'd rather have Saleh.
Oh, sure.
And so Saleh said it when the Jets beat the Packers, and I was at that game at Lambeau this past year. Saleh used the term, he said, we just kept on letting Green Bay swim in the deep end, and eventually they drowned. And I think that's that tough demeanor. That's that defensive-minded head coach that you got in Robert Saleh. So is Rodgers going to play well this year? I have no doubt. I have no doubt he'll play well. I mean, you're probably going to see, and the stats they had for Rodgers in Madden, 4,400 yards, 33 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I think that's a realistic Aaron Rodgers season. But look, it was time. I'm done with it. Aaron, thanks for the memories. Jordan, good luck. And again, the recovery room, there's going to be a lot of drunks on Sundays over the next 15 years if Jordan Love actually balls out. By the way, I cannot wait until the 2038 trade to the Jets of Jordan Love after one Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's basically what a lot of Packer fans are saying and memeing right now on social media, guys. I've seen a lot of these is like, the Jordan Love trade at that particular moment in time, and then he'll end up playing for the Jets. Listen, the Rodgers to the Jets thing still to me feels so awkward, so weird. I know Joe Namath came out last night and said that he would bless Rodgers wearing the number 12, and all of this is fantastic fodder for the show. I love this. Really, I do.
Yeah, and by the way, real quick, DC, I can't wait till Rodgers is drunk on the field and wants to kiss Susie Colbert. I'm waiting for that.
And it's interesting because that brings me up to something else that I thought was really a tell from Rodgers yesterday when you mentioned his insecurity. So the guy is as thirsty for media attention as there probably is and really just cares so much because when you talk to Brandon Marshall, he's like, well, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Nobody says stay tuned. Like Donald fucking Trump says, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Okay. All right, buddy. So we stay tuned, and then we watch this thing, and he's like, yeah, I don't know who this chick is. What's her name? Diana Rossini? At least Joe Namath, drunk as he was, knew who he was trying to molest. I mean, Joe had full goddamn knowledge of who he was trying to molest. And I think that's the reason that I really get rankled by Favre or Rodgers as opposed to a guy like Favre. And we've had this talk too. Favre just struck me as a more, even if he's a bad actor, a more earnest bad actor than Aaron is. Aaron feels like he thinks that he's smarter than everybody else, like he's some fox and he's just outwitting us all with his cunningness. And I see it as somebody who is a rogue opportunist who is, jumping aboard a whole bunch of sensationalism once he found out, oops, he stepped in some shit a couple of years ago. And now it's like, I'm just the most brilliant orator. I mean, this is the thing. What happens when you go on a Joe Rogan podcast is you come out thinking you're way better than you are. Like Joe's made fantastic success out of basically nothing on that podcast. And I think Rodgers got taken by it. This thing, it feels so bad for me as a Packer fan because I'm like, the Packers don't need to do the right thing. They've done everything they could for you, everything they could within reason. There are only so many players that want to come to play in Green Bay. We talk about these free agents and stuff. Okay, Reggie White. And then are we talking Zadarius Smith is like the second best free agent that's ever come to play in Green Bay? I mean, seriously, you have
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson, a player at the very back end of his career, right? As far as a primetime player, it doesn't happen like that. The Packers know they need to draft and develop. That's what they do. This is why Jordan Love is ready to play football. I just don't like the way it's coming off to me, and I know I should just chill out. And Jeff Schneider brought up a point, which I think probably bears some discussion, that someday a lot of Packer fans are going to realize they had misplaced aggression towards AR-12 and understand even Rodgers' greatness wasn't enough to overcome an incompetent front office and weak coaching. And I can't necessarily say that is 100% inaccurate. I can't, but I do think that the Packers organization. Milt Hendrickson, player personnel. Brian Gutekunst's been with the team a long time. And even Matt LaFleur, I mean, sure, we can credit all of Aaron Rodgers' greatness for the wins, but he's got like the best coaching start of an NFL career next to George Seifert in the history of the NFL. There's something there.
There's no doubt. And I think that's a great point. I think, Packer fans' frustration, whether it be with Favre or Rodgers, I totally think it's misplaced. Look, I don't blame the Seattle meltdown NFC Championship game on Aaron Rodgers. I don't. I'm sorry. They should have been going to the Super Bowl that year. They should have. There's just no question in my mind. Now, do I blame the Atlanta Falcon NFC Championship game on Rodgers? Absolutely no. Because you've got Ladarius fucking Gunter trying to cover, Roddy White. And so there was just no way that team matched up against Atlanta. The San Francisco NFC Championship game, Packers got throttled. That run game that day, they just ran the ball down Green Bay's throat. Now, the Tampa Bay game, could Rodgers have done a lot more? Absolutely. Absolutely. The Packer defense gave him the ball back several times. The San Francisco lost in the playoffs. Absolutely. But here's the thing, man. Look, when you look at the totality and the whole of the business or the whole of the career, Aaron Rodgers did more good things than bad. There's no doubt about that. For me, it's this ridiculous theatrics. I mean, it's almost like he's one of Batman's rogue villains now. I mean, it's a parody of himself. Yesterday, it's like, is this Frank fucking Gorshin playing the Riddler yesterday? I mean, I was completely just, it was like, dude, come on, man. No one needs your history of the organization that, Ted Thompson, you're not a fucking Disney movie. All right. You're just not. And so at that point you say, if he would have went on yesterday and said, look, man, Packers want to move on. I need to move on. It's all good. Let's just move forward. And he just kept on going down this fucking rabbit hole. And I watched Diana Rossini last night. She had one of the best lines because she said, look, he's not going to be the first guy that I wanted to lose his number. And so I thought that was classic by Diana Rossini. And look, I think Schefter is kind of a trollish kind of guy and et cetera, but he's doing a job. He's got a job to do and he's trying to do it. And, Rodgers thumping his chest and saying, look what I did to Adam Schefter by telling him lose my number, good try, pal. Basically he became Schefter at that point. For everything he hates about the media, he plays that. And that's the frustrating part of it. But again, for me, I am totally good with things. I think Green Bay comes out in a good position. I think I love the boomstick coming on. Incompetence aside, AR-12 will always be a chode. Packer fans, it's going to be okay. All right. And again, you're hearing this from the guy who on draft day with one Dave Carney in 2020, when you said, what's the one thing that'll piss you off? I said, draft Jordan Love. And here we are 3 years later, going on 4 seasons later. And he's the guy. 10 is the guy. And there's no question, by the way, that 5th-year option gets guaranteed. Now, some people speculated yesterday that do they play this like the Giants played Daniel Jones? Do they not do it? See what Jordan Love does this year. I think that'd be a bad move. I think that'd be a bad move to have him playing on a 1 year, on basically, playing hangman with this and playing chicken with this. I think that'd be a horrible move. You guarantee the $20 million. $20 million is still cheap for an above average starting quarterback in the NFL. And you move forward and you get out of this salary cap hell. And in a couple of years, you say, wow, look, Green Bay is now a 500 team with $50 million of salary cap to play with. And so it just yesterday, like I said, that was a circle jerk hour for me. It was just absolutely a waste of time and a waste of breath. And 300,000 people basically said, I want to watch this because this is must see YouTube.
You bet.
I just shake my head. I shake my head at that part of it. I shake my head. But, it's time. Packers are going to get that number one. Maddie, I'll buy you drinks. If I'm wrong on this, drinks are on me.
Well, hopefully I don't jump off that ledge.
Yeah, Packers are going to get a number one, and they're going to get a package, I think, that's going to be fair for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I like this from Joe V checking in this morning, and he's like, he saw a funny tweet where someone said that AR treats Adam Schefter like family. That's the lose my number thing. That is fantastic. I don't know. I think the Packers, in my opinion, guys, should wait this thing out as long as they can. I don't know how long that is. It could be a day. It could be 5 hours, but they should wait this out as long as they can to flex themselves into the best position. Jeff Schneider from Schneider Tax and Accounting said to me the other day that if they don't get the Packers, that is a first-round pick, he thinks Brian Gutekunst should be fired from his job for not getting a first-round pick for Rodgers. I don't know that you can do that now. I think the sentiment around Rodgers was such that if Gutekunst would have tried to pull the trigger like I would have a few years ago, he would have been ridden out of town tarred and feathered, and we would have never heard from this dude again, because that's how much Packer fans, rightly or wrongly, believe in Rodgers and had believed in Rodgers and his ability to elevate the team. I guess I will leave you with this, Joe, because sometimes I look at, how guys play against other teams. When Kevin Durant lost to the Warriors in the conference finals and then joins the Warriors, they win back-to-back championships. If you're Golden State, at least you looked at Durant, you're like, well, we did just play this guy in the conference finals. The Jets went to Lambeau Field and smacked the Packers 27-10, and Rodgers looked as bad, as old, as decrepit, as useless, as wasted, as washed as he has ever looked in his entire career. If I'm Robert Saleh, I'm not going like, that's the guy. That one right there, the one that we beat 27-10. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I know that Rodgers thinks he's great, but as we have come to find out, Father Time is yet to be defeated. And I don't know. This could get really great for the Packers and really bad for the Jets. And if I'm a Packer fan, which I am, I'm salivating. I say hold out as long as possible and get ready for the Jets to implode and maybe go 6-11 next year after Rodgers gets his spleen busted or some other old man injury, because he's 40, right? I'm 40. I know how much it hurts. It's not the same.
Dude, wait till you're 55. Old man injuries happen just getting out of fucking bed, dude. So three things I want to leave you with. Three things. All right, here we go. When AJ Hawk asked him if Green Bay would have texted and said, "Do we want you back?" Absolutely, we want you back. Would you have been excited? Aaron's response, not really, not sure. That told me a lot right there. When AJ Hawk, and I thought Hawk did a nice job of separating friendship from asking some questions, because he said, "Are you going to be a part of the off-season workouts with the Jets?" Too early to tell. All right, so that was Rodgers' response. Those two responses told me a lot about where Rodgers' head was. The third thing is this, and I tweeted this out last night. I think Green Bay is in a good position offensively right now. They've got a good offensive line if David Bakhtiari is back healthy. They've got the two running backs. They've got a nice wide receiving core, young. I think they need to get a veteran wide receiver. I think and they're not going to have a lot of money to spend, but they need a veteran out there. I will say this. The best thing Green Bay could do for Jordan Love right now is re-sign Robert Tonyan, because to rely on a rookie tight end, right? A tight end is a quarterback's best friend, especially one who's an outlet. And Tonyan last year wasn't explosive, but had a 95% catch ratio. All right. And so you look at that, and a lot of it was dump downs, and he didn't make a lot of yards after the catch. But what Green Bay can do right now for Jordan Love, re-sign Tonyan, go out and get a young tight end in the draft, probably another wide receiver in the draft, and get a veteran wide receiver on the cheap, because he's going to need those guys around him. So again, the two questions from AJ, and then what the Packers need to do next for Jordan Love. I'll leave you with those three things. But guys, it's a new era, it's a new generation, and drinks on me if Jordan Love balls out.
All right, well, we can use this. The tweet that I saw the other day was great. It was like Air Jordan with the H-E-I-R, Air Jordan, and that's going to be who we have. Joe, appreciate you as always, my friend. We'll talk to you bright and early Monday morning. Have a great weekend, Thanks, okay, Joe. Dude?
All right, boys, take care.
See you, bud. Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices. Sports Carnival broadcasting live, baby, from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room. Back with you here on an interestingly cloudy yet somehow warm Thursday morning in the state of Wisconsin, wherever you are and however it is you may be participating with the program. Welcome aboard. I know we had friends from Illinois checking in. Marengo Mike was with us earlier. I'm not sure where Joe V's at right now because he was in Vegas a week or so ago. Joe, how'd that trip to Vegas go, baby? Curious to find out. You know, Matt, yesterday we finally. Yep,
we got it done.
I wasn't even sure if this was going to happen because you're a busy guy. You got a lot of different fish in the frying pans, right? There's always something going on. You got hot water running for no goddamn reason downstairs for 12 hours and got to fix that. So it's hard to say when you can get away from Vegas. Yesterday, did it.
We're pot committed, man. We're going.
Did it. April the 6th is going to be a fun day. We'll be traveling out to Las Vegas. Joe, curious to see what your day was like, or week, or couple of days. Jeff Schneider's been checking in with this from Facebook. Jeff Schneider, Schneider Tax and Accounting. Big Aaron Rodgers fan, not just a big Rodgers fan, but a big Packer fan. Had a little comment before we went to break, and it says this: Brian Goody should be fired. The state of Wisconsin should also deny him unemployment compensation. I think that is fantastic. I don't think Gutekunst has done a bad job. I really don't. The mishandling of the Jordan Love draft pick to what this has led to with respect to Aaron Rodgers is something that you can take exception with. I'm not going to argue that. I also thought the Packers really made an overdrafting of A.J. Dillon. I liked A.J. Dillon, but Jonathan Taylor was sitting there for the get. The Packers could have done a lot of things differently, in my opinion. I advocated for the drafting of T.J. Watt. They went for Kevin King, okay? Perhaps I was being a little too short-sighted with, homerism, the Wisconsin Badger Stars, when T.J. Edwards was coming out of the draft. I thought he would be a perfect linebacker fit to replace the guy that went to the Giants. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they lost the middle linebacker who said, hey, the Packers don't really value this position. The points are this. We can all dissect the draft picks that these guys make. It's a hard job. Your brother's a scout in the NFL. There's no exact science to any of this. There aren't. These are still human beings. We're not talking about Madden football players. These aren't fantasy guys. These are real people that really can fail or really can exceed way past expectation. I think Gutekunst has done a good job overall, but I do see that there is frustration if, in fact, the Packers don't get a good draft pick. Joe thinks a first rounder. I'm with you. I don't think the Packers get that first round pick. It's at 13. The last time the Packers had a pick at 13, they got Rashawn Gary, right? That was a good draft pick.
Yep.
Okay, so if the Packers get 13, well done. I mean, well done, well played, excellent job all around. Thank you, Rodgers. See you later.
Yep.
Good luck in New York dealing with their fucking media, you little bitch.
Yep.
See how it goes. But I understand there can be and will be some frustration. I think that for the most part, though, Brian Gutekunst has done a pretty darn good job. I really do.
Well, and talk about the dysfunction that's going to happen in New York's crazy. I guess the one thing that I was going to throw out to you, and maybe you can ask Joe next week, is I'm wondering, is this more of the people that the Packers let go, being his friends, like when they let Hawk go, they let Cobb go? Did that piss him off more than the fact that they didn't bring players in for him? Get what I'm saying there?
Well, hindsight, I think, is 20/20 on that one, because if you told him that, hey, we're going to let Randall Cobb go, but we'll get a prime career Odell Beckham Jr., I don't think that Aaron Rodgers would have blinked at that.
Right.
He would have said, this is great. The other thing, and
what
thank
about
you.
Devontae, though?
Well, Devontae was a draft pick.
Right, but they let him go instead of keeping him, I guess. So do you think it was more that they let You get what I'm.
Here's the thing, though, with Devontae, if you remember that contract, they didn't let him go. He walked away on purpose.
Right.
He was a free agent. He walked away because he wanted to go play with Derek Carr, wanted to live out west.
Yeah, that didn't work out very well for him either.
Well, statistically, it did.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this: who went to the playoffs last year? The Raiders or the Packers?
Oh yeah, Carr. I got you.
Oh wait. Okay, so nobody went anywhere. So okay, fine.
Yeah, they both had bad. Yeah,
moot
years.
point.
Yeah.
Right? Devontae got the bag, and this is the thing too. These guys getting paid this money and getting their stats. I know it sounds trite, but if you're a wide receiver, that is pretty goddamn important. Yeah. Super Bowls are more important to a quarterback's legacy than Super Bowls are to a wide receiver's legacy. We don't think about Calvin Johnson any less than because he didn't win Super Bowls. It's not like, well, Calvin Johnson's not a great wide receiver. He didn't win Super Bowls, right? So I think in that case,
I see what you're saying.
That's that. I do want to say what's up to P12 Foreman, Blake Martinez. That's the guy that I was mentioning who said the Packers didn't really.
Yep.
Yeah, middle linebacker said the Packers didn't really value that position, went to play for the Giants. To backtrack to that Brian Gutekunst's point, I think that you can always look back at drafts and say, wow, they should have taken this guy. Wow, they should have taken that guy. It's not an exact science, so I'll give him a pass. But the Jordan Love thing, listen, if it fails tremendously, if Jordan Love is an absolute hack and just cannot play at all, you can blame Brian Gutekunst for that. That's fair.
Well, and I was going to say one of the worst draft picks of all time is Tony Mandrich by the Packers. So it's not exact science. And that's all, because no matter how much a scout does for work on the road, you have 15 different scouts, and eventually the general manager is going to have to make that choice. And like you said, it's not exact science. And you just never know if these guys are going to stay healthy too. That's the other thing. It's a man's game. It's a scary thing to do with the draft.
Yeah, it is. It's like scary. That's a good word for it because everybody's job is on the line. And the pressure about getting picks right or wrong, I mean, again, not to speak for your brother, but we've had conversations before. This is a very intense business. Professional football, the NFL, more than probably most of the other professional sports, very intense business. And the cut ratio is very high.
There's only 32 employers.
That's it. And the cut ratio, very high. The margin that you are from somebody trying to take your job, and this is a front office person, a coach, a player, scout, I mean, fucking equipment manager, okay? The cut rate is very high, and the difference between you and somebody else is very low. Joe V did answer my question, Maddie, because we mentioned that we're going out to Vegas. Joe was just in Vegas, said Vegas is fun, still recovering. He went to a sketch English pub by the airport with some soccer guys. I know exactly what pub you're talking about because it's called, is it the Tilted Kilt? I can't remember if it's the Tilted Kilt, but I want to say that it is. So there's this great little pub, and it's an English pub, like an actual English pub. And nice. Man, when there is World Cup or soccer back in the day when they didn't have soccer as much on television as they do now, you go to this English pub, and it was raucous. So I'm glad that you went there, Joe V. Maybe I'll have to take Matt there. I'm going to take him on a tour of
Old Town, I believe.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Old Town doesn't really exist because they blew up so much. Like when something gets old, they largely tear it down. Downtown Las Vegas, we'll look at, but that again resembles nothing of the old time because they have closed it in. It's got a great Fremont Street experience, but there are some places, some individual places that do remain. The Bootleggers Bistro, South Strip near the South Point Hotel and Casino. Listen, forget about it.
All right.
You want to go to a place where you're like, hey, forget about it. Get some really good Italian food, almost a speakeasy feel. That's a place we're going to go. We're also going to go underneath, which I know you're afraid of heights, so we won't go there. Underneath the Lynx big, gigantic observation wheel, there is still a little teeny, and it's Batista's hole in the wall. There's a little teeny, Italian restaurant that's there. Do you remember the movie Casino?
Of course.
Okay, Robert De Niro, Sharon Stone getting an argument at a restaurant, right? Where he has to like grab her arm and shit. That place.
All right.
So we'll take you there.
Get enough alcohol in me, I can go up some heights. I just don't know if I'm going to do that zip line thing, brother. I might lose my shit on that.
Well, and the observation wheel is very slow. That's not a fast ride. That's a very slow. Okay. You're in these huge pods, and there's bars in these pods. We can get a drinking pod.
All right, I'm in. I'm game.
It sounds really awesome. Either way, I'm going to take you to some of those little places. So the English pub. Now I'm going to jot this down on my notepad. English pub. Remember this. All right, we've got you. Let's see. We've got, I think, Jeff Schneider checking back in here with us on our Facebook group page and asked us to do this. A research project for tomorrow. What offensive players were drafted in the first or second round since AR-12 became the starting quarterback? What offensive skill players were brought in? Fair point. Fair point. The Packers don't do that. That's what we talked about with Mercedes Lewis, right? Mercedes Lewis is the only first-round draft pick, and he wasn't drafted by the Packers. He was drafted by the Jaguars, I believe. But Mercedes Lewis was the only first-round draft pick that Aaron Rodgers has ever thrown a touchdown to. again, Jeff, I'm not going to argue with that point, but that's an organizational thing more than it's a Brian Gutekunst thing. So again, I don't know if we're separating the two things and saying Gutekunst did horrible for Jordan Love, fine. But the Packers organizationally don't do a lot of that, drafting skill position offensive players much in the first round. And there is something to that. I think they wanted to with Justin Jefferson, but the Vikings ended up getting him. Deft move by Rick Spielman, their former general manager, who I think's been fired since then. That was a deft move because Jefferson's a fucking beast. This guy's awesome. I hear what you're saying, but the thing is this. Devontae Adams wasn't drafted in the first round. Do we largely consider Devontae Adams one of, if not the best wide receivers in the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not that the Packers don't know how to find these guys, right? And they don't need to always spend sexy first-round picks on players like that because you can get those players in other areas. But I see what you're saying, and I'm not going to diminish that on a totality scale. The Packers front office doesn't bear some responsibility for not getting more out of their two generationally talented quarterbacks in Favre and Rodgers. I had a chance to sit and speak and interact with Ron Wolf a couple years ago. He came to Glory Days when it was still open and owned by its former ownership group. And Ron was there, and I asked Ron a question. I said, Ron, what's your biggest regret as a Packers general manager? And he said, Dave, not doing everything we could to surround Brett Favre with more talent, more offensive talent during his career. And I think that you could probably say that about Rodgers, right? Like that's somewhat of a regret. But over the last couple of years, and this is where I split from this conversation, over the last couple of years, the Packers have bent over backwards, done a number of different loops and flips, and look, it just hasn't worked out. And at this point, it's obviously time to move on, but the Packers should get the most for him as they possibly can, because again, if he thinks he's that good now, well, great. Let's make sure that we get max value for you then, buddy, because I don't see it, but if you see it and you're telling us that you see it and giving away all sorts of card tricks here because you don't know how to keep your fucking cards close to your vest, then awesome.
I just don't see
Awesome.
how it's going to happen, honestly, with everything the Jets. It's just like you said, he's at the back end of his career. If they get a first-round pick for him, I'm going to lose my mind on that alone. I'm sorry. I'm just so frustrated with Aaron Rodgers right now and all this talk because you just don't know what the hell you're going to get. If he goes to the Jets and they ball out, great, good for them. But if they don't, who cares? At least the Packers have, like you said, a good core for the most part. They're young. Like Joe said, they might be 500. But to me, they kind of remind me of where the Bears were, about a year or two ago.
Sure.
And look where the Bears are now.
Well, the Bears might be a good example of what the Packers could look like. I don't want to say that the Packers, 500 would be a real nice step, but they could be as bad as the Bears were this year.
Yep.
That's possible. It's possible, not likely, but it is possible.
And in the NFL, nothing lasts forever, and it is what it is. So I say that way too much, but you just never know with injuries, with everything else. And
Jordan Love could be awful.
Yep. Well,
that's the thing. We don't know.
Yep. And the NFC North is going to be better too. So, and like I said earlier, now Aaron Rodgers has the third best completion percentage in the state of New York.
God, that's hilarious.
Good luck with that. Daniel Jones had a better year than him last year.
He did not a better year.
Completion percentage wise. So that's what I was going with. And then, as I mentioned to you earlier, the Jets have never had a better quarterback record for stats wise than Aaron Rodgers had in his worst season. So the Jets are definitely going all in, and thanks to Aaron Rodgers, they painted him in a corner.
Well, and that's where Rodgers again is just so bad at this whole thing. And I love that he thinks he's just the smartest guy in the room, which I'm not saying that I am, but I will say this: growing up around gamblers and just listening to the late, great Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. If you're Rogers, you answer a question about like, hey, do you want to play for the Jets? I really kind of do, but guys, I'm just not sure what I've got left. I've got probably, you want to make it seem to the Green Bay Packers like you just don't know how much you've got left. Therefore, the Jets are not going to be inclined to have to give up the fucking farm for you. If you're Rodgers and you want to play this coyly and be smart, then you use subterfuge, dude. You don't pretend you don't know who Diana Rossini is. You don't get mad at Adam Schefter. And then, okay, final thought on this. So you hate the way the media portrays you. And Thomas, I'm glad you went on a nice walk with your folks, but you hate the way the media portrays you. Then the media, the reporter, actually reaches out to you to confirm or deny reports. Ask you, actually go to the horse's mouth, the source itself. Lose my number. How can you do this to me? God, the aggrievedness. But wait. I thought you wanted this to be all correct. I thought you wanted us to get the story right. Lose my number. Who is this? You can't have it both ways, buddy. It doesn't work like that. And that's why it just feels to me very hollow.
He doesn't want this to drag on. Yet all it's going to do is continue to drag on. And my point with this is it's just more attention for him, because if he can tell Adam Schefter to go fuck himself, then more people are just going to talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but more Packer fans are going to say, good, hold out for this. As a matter of fact, before we go, the poll question right now looking like this. When asked, what should the Packers do now that Rodgers has declared his intention to play for the Jets? 57% on Twitter say slow play for the best picks. 24% say accommodate him right away. 19% don't trade to spite him. Looking at our Facebook group page, 82% say slow play this for the best picks or compensation. 14% say don't trade him just to spite him. And only a scant 4% say accommodate him right away. You guys and gals have a great rest of your day. Remember, Recovery Room open at 11. Euro special today. Prime rib special today. We've also got about another 2 hours to make your brackets. So if you get down there by 11:15, you've still got a chance to get your brackets in the running. Like I said, we've had a lot of people come and make their brackets. It's going to be a nice pool. So get yourself down to the Recub. We open at 11. I'll be behind the bar with my man, Matt, here. We'll see you guys soon. And we'll see you back here on the show tomorrow morning, bright and early.